Hi, Judge Andrew Napolitano here, and you are on Freedom Watch with my guest and good friend and Fox colleague, Democratic pollster and strategist, and the Senior Director of Research at Bustle.com, Jessica Tarlov. Jesse, let me ask you this. We've been talking for a couple of weeks now about Donald Trump's allegations of President Obama wiretapping him.
Right.
That has now morphed into the Obama administration using, this is the allegation, intelligence assets to gather information that was essentially political. If that is true, and there's some evidence for it as we speak, if that is true, shouldn't Democrats be as alarmed of it as Republicans, the use of intelligence data for political purposes?
Absolutely, and I think that there are some very smart voices on either side of the fence here that are talking about that. I've been really heartened to see how the Senate Intelligence Committee is operating. Richard Burr and Warner talking about the same issues and the same levels of concern, not only about Donald Trump's wiretapping claim, which obviously has morphed, as you mentioned, but also that we might be doing these things for political purposes. Susan Rice was talking about it earlier, saying that it was never used for political purposes, incidental collection. The Obama administration wouldn't do anything like that. But yeah, this is a bipartisan issue for sure.
All right. It is now generally accepted that the intelligence community does not follow FISA and uses a variety of sources, some known, some not known to the public, to spy on everyone all the time, that it captures digitally all phone calls and all computer strokes and stores this information.
That it can.
Yeah, well, that it can and that it does. Shouldn't everybody be fearful of this? Isn't this Big Brother on steroids that the government listens to? It doesn't have the time to listen. The government stores and can access, I'm using terms of art now, everything we say and everything we type.
I think it's certainly next level when you think about the outrage we used to have in New York City under Bloomberg about soda taxes and things like that, when you think of where we've evolved to. My understanding of the situation was that they were doing this with specificity, that this wasn't broad brush. You know, when the story came out about how Samsung TVs were being hacked into, that was an exaggeration.
We now know from former NSA people, some of whom have outed themselves, that this is all gathering of all information all the time, and the FISA court is a subterfuge. It is a myth. It is make-believe that FISA is followed. Why? Because FISA issues what are called general warrants. So it wouldn't be a warrant for Jesse Tarlov's phone calls to Andrew Napolitano. It would be a warrant for everybody in the 212 area. Or everybody in the 100.
And then they just pick and choose. Then they say, oh, I want to hear Jesse to answer.
So that's the equivalent of a general warrant. It doesn't identify the person, and the government doesn't have to give a reason. That's against the Constitution. Aren't Democrats as upset with that as libertarians are?
No, I don't think Democrats are ever as upset with big government issues as libertarians. I mean, that's your bread and butter.
Right, but this type of spying should be under the skin of everybody who believes that the Constitution means what it says. And now I'm talking about the Bill of Rights.
Absolutely. I think that that's correct. And we've had a lot more healthy discussions, I think, about the Constitution and what it means, and in a whole variety of ways than we have in many years before, certainly since all this leaking began, you know, WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden, and looking at what's going on right now. I think generally speaking, Democrats tend to not be afraid of these issues. They believe that the government is their friend. I understand that information can be used against you, but that's really foundational to what we see the government as, not something that's going to hurt us, but something that is there to protect us and to alleviate anxieties.
Okay, there's a large section of FISA which is due to expire this fall. There will be, I think, because of everything happening now in the spring of 2017, a serious national debate about how much spying we want the government to impose upon us. Where will the Democrats be in this? Do they want to dial it back a little bit? Do they want it to be more public? Do they want more judicial involvement?
I think that there will be a move to dial it back a little bit. I think that people on the ground are concerned, especially now that no one thinks that their phone is safe. I just saw a statistic that there's been something like a 40% rise in the number of downloads of secure apps for messaging. I mean, I rarely text message friends now. I use something like WhatsApp or Telegram. People are using Signal or Wicker. You know, you're not just going on your phone because you know that Apple can get into it or Samsung or whatever, and now there are issues of whether the government can force them, to turn over whatever might be stored there. So I hope the Democrats will be on the side of dialing it back some, but we will never be libertarians on this front.
Okay, last question and switching gears. We are on the eve of historic events in the United States Senate. To secure the confirmation of the nomination of Judge Gorsuch to the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, you're Mitch McConnell. You're not Jesse Tarlov, and you're not Chuck Schumer. You're Mitch McConnell. What do? You got 41 votes against it. Blow away, use the so-called nuclear option, the opportunity for filibusters ever again in the future on Supreme Court nominees? Do you ask the president to withdraw Judge Gorsuch, a very eminently qualified person?
Well, this day, like all other days, I'm happy to not be Mitch McConnell. I think it's an incredibly difficult position to be in, and he spoke very eloquently about the importance of not going to the nuclear option and the history here. And we were talking about this before we started.
Yes, and we have agreed on this.
We do. Here it is, the agreement moment. It's an incredibly slippery slope looking forward. Democrats pushing this, I think, was a mistake because we are bound to get a more conservative justice if, God forbid, another justice passes away or retires in the next 4 years. Why would Donald Trump have any reason not to nominate someone so far to the right? And likewise, again, if Democrats were in power, they would play this game. I don't see Mitch McConnell withdrawing Gorsuch because, as you said, he's eminently qualified. This is someone who was confirmed 99-0 and avoids vote.
Does that mean the so-called nuclear option will happen at the end of this week?
It seems like that to me. Do you think it happens?
Yes, I do. But
Yeah.
I also think that Chuck Schumer, and give me your thoughts on this, has overplayed his hand because this is something he was bound to lose.
Right.
Why fight a fight you're bound to lose? Go to Donald Trump and say, hey, Mr. President, here's 5 things we want.
How about a deal?
Pick any 2 or
Right.
3. That's the way Trump likes to operate.
1,000%, and we know that he doesn't care what party you belong to. He made it clear Freedom Caucus out, Democrats in, no big deal. Yeah, I think it was a mistake there. I think that it's still about satisfying the far left. There are people in the more Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren camp who also might have been upset still that Keith Ellison didn't end up leading the DNC, for instance.
Okay.
And they're saying resist, resist, resist anything. Now, there are parts of, Judge Gorsuch's record, which I don't particularly love. I don't think about, I mean, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but he's obviously more conservative than I am. But at the end of the day, I don't think we could have done much better barring Merrick Garland.
Is this fair to say? You can live with Gorsuch as I could have lived with Garland.
Yes.
And we are nowhere near each other on the ideological spectrum.
No.
But we respect intellectual competence.
Intellectual competence and
Basic
fair
fairness.
jurists.
Yes,
and also the process of how they got to where they are, which were, confirmations of 99-0.
Jesse,
that's a lot.
I could talk to you all afternoon. Always a pleasure.
But we can't.
Thank you. From New York,
Thank you.
defending freedom. Whenever they let me, Judge Andrew Napolitano. See you next time, America.